Look, man, I'll make you a promise. All right. I may not be spot on target, but here's the deal. One very interesting thing has happened in the last 10 years on this planet. Well, many things have. But the most important thing has happened in the United States. And that has to do with its political system and its people. Oh, yeah, we know about the liberals versus the Republicans, all that shit. Okay? But let me tell you something. I want you to look at a scale of every country that ever has had political people in office. And you will see that scale climb from the oldest becoming president, like a responsibility thing. Like sometimes they're age 40, sometimes they're age 50, but they're all basically in the same group. Until what? Until the next generation comes along, and a little bit down, okay, then the next generation comes along. But the ideas in the office are of basically that generation's time. So you're sort of condemned to have to reflect that generation. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the baby boomers, they finally made it into Washington, and people make fun of them because they're hypocrites compared to how they were in the 60s and on and on and on. Well, next up is Generation X, and you have a gap, or amount of time, about 20 years of Generation Xers. They try to shrink that. Okay, so roughly they should get as much time in the Washington position that they would have to. You want to talk about entitlement, as the baby boomers did. Now, what happens? Well, what happens is they start saying at the age of 5 years old, our vote doesn't count. They don't even know what voting is. That's something you got to take into mind. Their vote doesn't count. Why would they even care? Their vote doesn't count. Why are they saying that all the time? In the high school, our vote doesn't count. Our vote doesn't count. So then we get called slackers or whatnot, and that we don't vote, etc., etc. Then something shocking happens. After Bush gets in the year 2000 on hanging chads, where somehow he knew that he won by 450 votes, hanging chads in Florida. Then they decide, because we're not out of Iraq, because Bush isn't doing anything, Katrina was a bigger disaster than 9/11, except it wasn't on TV as much, they all show up and decide to be hypocrites. They all decide to show up and vote. So in 2008, all the Gen Xers used their minds, their art, their ideas, and they got everyone to vote. And what did they do? They voted in someone you think is a disaster. And maybe it's just showing what Washington's about. But they voted. They all voted. And for the first time, only Gen X, only our generation, not the fucking boomers. The millennials weren't really voting yet. Not the eldest generation. Most of America, besides us, who, let's just say they have a race issue. I'm not saying that dictated their Republican votes. But at the time, it was a protest against Bush. And Hillary was the candidate. Then all of a sudden, Obama comes in, and he gets all this fucking rah-rah like he's a hip-hop artist. In fact, when he won, Republicans went fucking crazy, to the point to where the world was so happy, they gave him a motherfucking Nobel Peace Prize. Remember how pissed off you were, Republicans? He's not even in office yet. How does he get a Peace Prize? Because they weren't giving it to him, you fucking idiots. They were giving it to us. The world was giving us a Peace Prize because we voted and we finally fixed a fucking mistake that we're all going to pay for. And basically, those are halcyon years. We have natural disasters. You want to bitch and complain. The health care is now coming into effect. We're like the only country that doesn't have it. There's nothing gone wrong. All rumors. You said he was the Antichrist. Some people even said that we would turn into Russia the day after he got into office. They call him an Arab. They want his birth certificate. All the typical shit you've been saying for fucking years about regular black people. It's ridiculous. But we don't play that. We don't play that way. So your vote didn't count. Ours did. They don't ever tell you that. Your vote didn't count. But some of you knew that, so you got pissed off. Because now they fix the system so that guess who's up? Who? Two devils. Hillary, who's possessed by one, and then the utmost poster child of greed and money, who's trademarked the term "you're fucking fired,"